and welcome to my channel where I make dishes inspired by some of my favorite video game characters. Today's dish is inspired by Robert Robertson from Dispatch. You can't play Dispatch without absolutely loving and respecting Robert. I mean, you could, but I wouldn't believe you. All of the characters in the game are so well written and lovable, but Robert is a sure standout. He's such a kind person and such a wonderful leader. He's always willing to do the right thing, even if it's the hard thing. He obviously is also willing to do whatever he can to help those in need, going through all of his inheritance to keep up Mecha Man, and doing his best to save people even when he's at a disadvantage without superpowers. He's also insanely funny in his reactions with others, especially Chase, and how can you not love his relationship with this chunky Chihuahua beef? I love how he understands the best way to approach all of the members of the Z team, and I love how he understands that they don't need to be pitied because he sees potential in each of them and knows that the only way to get the best out of them is to expect the best out of them. Robert's the kind of character that usually seems too good to be true in games and media, but since his humor and personality is so realistic, I never once saw him as an unattainable or unrealistic character. I truly could go on and on about the game and Robert specifically, as Dispatch is a game I'd love to play again if my memory was ever wiped. Making a dish for Robert was pretty simple, and I'm sure everyone totally understands why. Robert is one of those characters who already has a pretty strong in-game relationship to a certain food, so it'd feel wrong to make anything else. Of course, that food is Twinkies. Robert has fond memories of eating Twinkies, especially when Chase would go buy him some from the local store, and he's so nostalgic for them that he often eats them still as an adult. When I think of Robert and food, I also think of a few other things that are edible, or should I say, drinkable. Often, during the workday, Robert can be seen sipping coffee out of his SDN mug, or even getting coffee thrown at him. After his workday, such as at the Sardine, he can be seen drinking whiskey or offering whiskey to the rest of the Z team. And to top it all off, during the craziness of Episode 8, he drinks an SDN mug of both coffee and whiskey. So all of this together, we are making some coffee bourbon Twinkies that would surely energize Robert to help the Z team through another eventful dispatch. Here's what you'll need to make your own. For the coffee sponge cake, you'll need cake flour, all-purpose flour, baking powder, salt, espresso powder, whole milk, unsalted butter, vanilla extract, 5 large eggs at room temperature, granulated sugar, cream of tartar, and powdered sugar. For the bourbon Swiss meringue filling, you'll need granulated sugar, light corn syrup, water, 3 large egg whites, salt, and bourbon whiskey. As for equipment, to make the classic Twinkie shape, you could use a hot dog bun pan or a Twinkie pan, or you can make your own single-use molds using aluminum foil and a small cylindrical spice jar. To get the whole dispatch started, we'll make our aluminum Twinkie molds first. We'll rip out 12 squares of aluminum foil and then we'll fold the square in half. You'll then wrap the aluminum foil around your spice jar and leave the top open. This will create that classic Twinkie rounded shape. Repeat with all 12 pieces of aluminum foil and then place the molds onto a baking sheet. Spray the molds generously with baking spray and then set aside until later. You'll then start preheating your oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit, then grab a medium bowl. To that bowl, we'll add in a half cup of cake flour, a 1/4 cup of all-purpose flour, 1 teaspoon of baking powder, a 1/4 teaspoon of salt, and a 1/2 teaspoon of espresso powder. Whisk it all up until the ingredients are well dispersed. You'll then head over to the stovetop with a small saucepan. Into this saucepan, we'll add in 2 tablespoons of whole milk and 4 tablespoons or a 1/2 stick of unsalted butter. Heat the pan on low until the butter has fully melted. Then remove the pan from the heat and stir in a 1/2 teaspoon of vanilla extract. Once everything is well combined, cover the pan with a lid to keep it warm until we use it in a couple steps. We'll grab our 5 room temp eggs and separate them out into 2 separate bowls, one for the yolks and one for the whites. We're then going to beat the egg whites, so add all 5 egg whites to the bowl of a stand mixer or into a mixing bowl and use a hand mixer. With the whisk attachment, beat the whites on high until they become foamy, which shouldn't take too long. You'll then measure out 3/4 cup of granulated sugar and you'll slowly add 6 tablespoons of this sugar to the egg whites as they continue beating on high. You'll also add in a 1/4 teaspoon of cream of tartar. As the mixture continues to beat, you'll watch for it to form soft peaks, and once it does, you'll transfer the egg whites into a separate bowl for a moment. You'll then add your egg yolks into the same bowl that you just mixed your egg whites in. There's no need to clean the bowl in between. You'll add the 5 egg yolks as well as the rest of your granulated sugar, and you'll beat this mixture on medium-high speed until it becomes thick and a lighter yellow color. At this point, we'll pour the egg whites back into the mixing bowl, but we won't mix everything together just yet. Before we do, we'll sprinkle our bowl of flour mixture into this mixing bowl, and then we'll mix everything. Beat on low speed for only about 10 seconds, or until it's well blended but not thoroughly combined. You'll stop the mixer and make a small well on one side of the bowl, and this is where we'll pour in our melted butter from earlier. Grab a rubber spatula and fold everything together gently until there are no visible clumps of flour and the eggs are evenly mixed, but try not to lose any of the air that you've been building up. We'll then pour the batter into our prepared Twinkie molds until each mold has about 3/4 inch of batter, although it may not be perfect depending on the sizes of your mold. You'll then carefully slide your Twinkies into the oven to bake for around 15 to 20 minutes until the cake tops are more golden and the center springs back when touched. While the cakes are still in their molds, you'll transfer them to a wire rack to fully cool, and as they fully cool, you'll switch gears over to your filling. In a small saucepan, you'll add in 3/4 cup of granulated sugar, 1 tablespoon of light corn syrup, 3 tablespoons of water, 3 large egg whites, and an 1/8 teaspoon of salt. You'll whisk the mixture until combined and heat it on low heat, while whisking pretty frequently, until the sugar has completely dissolved. This should take around 3 to 4 minutes, give or take. You'll then remove the pan from the heat and transfer the mix into a bowl to be beaten as well. So again, add to a stand mixer bowl or use a hand mixer. Beat the mixture on high until it becomes thick, glossy, and forms stiff peaks. This should take around 7 minutes to fully whip up to the desired consistency. Once it looks beautiful, you'll add in your shot of bourbon and then beat briefly just to mix everything together, then scoop into a piping bag. All that's left is to fill up our cakes so that Robert is able to gobble on some hot, sloppy Twinkies. Remove all the little cakes from their molds and then grab a chopstick. Use the chopstick to poke 3 holes in the bottom of each cake, 1 in the center and 1 on either end. Wiggle the chopstick around quite a bit to try and make more room for the filling if you can. From there, you'll insert the piping bag tip into each hole and fill generously with the filling. You should feel the cake expand slightly, but try not to overfill. Then all we have to do is serve by sprinkling with a tiny bit of espresso powder to look more like Robert's freckles. And with that, we're all ready to dig in.
You gonna eat those Twinks?
That's not what they're... You know what? Help yourself.
It takes a bit of time to make these, of course, compared to just buying some, but they are quite the fun experience and really are so different yet familiar to a Twinkie. The cake itself is insanely spongy and bouncy while still being moist, and the filling has that nice kick of flavor from the bourbon. The 2 flavors go really well together and feel like they belong together, and if you're like me, you'll definitely want to top each Twinkie generously with your leftover filling. They're so fun to eat, but unlike store-bought Twinkies with all of their preservatives, they won't last super long, and the alcohol will start to separate from the filling after a while, so make sure to enjoy somewhat quickly for the best experience. Robert can't get over the nostalgia he has for Twinkies, as taking a bite from one fills him with memories of the positive parts of his childhood, such as being babysat by Chase. When all is going wrong or things are changing and shifting constantly, such as during a busy dispatch, he can always count on Twinkies to have that reliable taste and texture he has come to expect. I picture that Robert couldn't be bothered to go through the process of making these special Twinkies, but he'd have a good time making them with Blonde Blazer. Because she's so perfect, I'm sure she would also be good at baking. Who knows, Mr. Whiskey might even make these for Robert on an eventful day in the office. What I do know, though, is that Robert would be absolutely obsessed with this boozy, coffee-filled Twinkie, and he'd love it so much that he wouldn't let anyone touch it, not even Beef. Well, even if it didn't have alcohol, he still wouldn't let him have some. These extra special Twinkies would be a perfect representation of how being a dispatcher has changed his life. Sure, his life has become a different kind of chaotic, but he would never have gotten to try such a perfectly suited treat if he had never joined SDN. The recipe card is in the video description if you'd like a more quick and concise version to give it a try. Like if you want a bite, subscribe for more geeky treats, and comment what foods Robert reminds you of. Thanks for following along.